gang. Let's see. So we got the new numbers. This is typically the Sprintwatch. This one's going to be a little bit shorter than normal because they haven't updated the numbers yet. So we've got the progress tracker over here, which is usually the focus of this particular show, and they haven't stretched these out. Which isn't too surprising. Last year, I think it was mid-March before they actually dropped the new plan on us. Added to that, I think it was Jake Acapella who handles this thing, was saying that they might be making a change to it, so that might be in the cards. Anyways, we'll get into it. This one should be much shorter than normal, which you'll probably be able to tell by the timestamp below. Let's get this. Okay, so first up are the caveats. This time, since I'm not going to be talking about the progress tracker as much as I usually do, the first caveat doesn't apply as much, but my main thrust here is that I am just a dude on the internet. So all the information that I pull out here, all these insights here are all basically straight from my head based on what I'm seeing here. And I am not an authority of any type. I just happen to listen to a lot of shows and watch a lot of shows and form opinions based on that. I have no access to stuff that you don't. I don't have friends or contacts in CIG like some of the other content creators that do the same thing. That's it. Let us go on. I'm not going to give my usual caveat about the progress tracker because it won't really apply today. This show, one of the things I do is I go through the roadmap roundup, just kind of talk about what's new. There are a few new significant things, and there is something that I want to address. Go through the release view and just kind of double check what's clicking on there. And then what is typically the real meat of the show is in the progress tracker. This time, as I was saying, they haven't updated their work on these yet. And so there isn't much to say that I didn't say 2 weeks ago. So if you go and you watch the longer episode, I think it's like an hour and a half from 2 weeks ago, you'll basically get everything I think about all of this stuff from the information they've given us so far. And hopefully in 4 weeks would typically be mid-March, we'll get the new numbers, and then we'll be able to start talking about what's actually happening, what they're actually working on, focusing on new deliverables, old deliverables dropping off. We'll be able to infer a lot more. But that said, let's go ahead and get into this. We'll start with the roadmap roundup. Notable changes for February 21st, 2024. I don't know why I said February, weird there. Release view, freight elevators, an update. This one's a little sad. As work has progressed on freight elevators, the team has recognized that additional feature work is required to implement summoning vehicles via your hangar. As a result, this specific mechanic will come at a later date. Freight elevators and their other related functionalities are still on track for 3.2.3. So this means that all cargo and I'm assuming inventory that isn't vehicles, things like Ursa rovers or cyclones or the hover bikes, all of that will still come up on those freight elevators. So physicalized cargo is going to be in for 3.2.3, which is going to kind of change the whole trading aspect. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to load our vehicles that way, which is a little bit of a shame, which still means the only way to get vehicles into your ship if you're not at Lorville or New Babbage, which have built-in vehicle places. Well, even there, you're still going to have to summon up your ship, fly your ship over to someplace else, call up your vehicle, drive it out, land it on your ship, or drive it up onto your ship. And that's the only way you can do it, which is still, your ship is vulnerable in that state no matter what. Whereas if it was in an hangar, would be less the case. But gang, we're in an alpha, so that's something that we just kind of got to live with until 3.2.3.1, probably like sometime around June. They'll probably fix it. Actually, I think 3.2.3 is due in June. So anyways, moving on. The following cards have been added to Release View, targeting an Alpha 323 release window. Arena Commander Custom Lobbies. Custom Lobbies, previously referred to as private matches, makes their return to Arena Commander, utilizing the front end and lobby systems. Custom lobbies allow players to set up and play matches for any game modes on any map at any time with their own rules. Cool. Cool. That'll give people a lot of options. I could actually see the racing groups kind of doing that for heats or placing for bigger races. Might be a way to do it, just to kind of keep it away from potential griefers or trolls. They'll just come in and try to ram ships while they're going through a big race or something. I don't know. It's thought also a really good way to train new people in the orgs, or just new people to the game. That's one of the things I always suggest is new players go into Arena Commander first, learn how to fly and control their ship. If they can do it with another player, so much the better, which Arena Commander actually allows for. And with all the things they're adding to Arena Commander, that's pretty cool. So let's go on. Arena Commander, Grav Royale. Embark on high-speed mayhem in a thrilling new game mode. Grav mode Royale. I guess it's Grav Royale. Engage in intense vehicular combat across diverse maps, mastering your grav-led vehicles to outmaneuver foes and seize victory in this gravity-defying battle arena. Battle arena. That's kind of cool. So that actually sounds a lot like Mario Kart, like Mario Kart with grav bikes. The fact that they keep saying grav vehicle as opposed to grav bikes does suggest that they might be bringing in something heavier eventually, kind of something we all suspected. I wonder if we can bring the Prowler in. Anyway, Arena Commander, Engineering Experimental Mode. This is a big one. 3 limited test experimental modes featuring the engineering gameplay, also referred to as Resource Network, showcased at SitCon 2953. I'll put a link in the up above parts. Help shape the future of engineering gameplay in Star Citizen by testing and giving feedback to the features and balance showcase in this limited test before it hits the persistent universe, which means we're probably not getting it in 323, but we'll probably be getting it in 3231. They've been dropping some pretty strong hints that they're not going to be dropping a 324, that it's going to be 323, maybe a couple cleanup patches, and then it's 4.0. Like the next thing that they want to release will be engineering, which means that when I said that they probably won't drop engineering and 4.0 in the same patch, I was wrong. So there. Now, how will they be rolling this out? 3 limited test experimental modes. I would assume you're just going to be on a ship where things start breaking down. You have to run around and fix stuff. But 3 of them, that's kind of interesting. Let me know what 3 you're thinking of. I know Salty Mike had a couple ideas. Agree with some of them, disagree with others. I don't know which of us will be right. And I guess he will, since he actually has CIG contacts in his group. Arena Commander, new flight map, Miner's Lament. So I have actually flown Miner's Lament in the verse. This one is right next to Grim Hex. If you look at Grim Hex and you can see the little diamond that's right off to the right of Grim Hex, that's Miner's Lament. It's this racetrack. Very, very cool, very technical racetrack. I think when I was talking about the racing loop a couple weeks ago, Miner's Lament was the one that I was closing with, and I had to fly that one really slow because there's some things where you're basically flying down, then you got to switch and fly straight up through an asteroid, which is intimidating. Miner's Lament, previously exclusive to racing and part of the Master Mode's tests, now opens its treacherous asteroid-laden expanse to all flight modes. Dogfight in the chaotic beauty of Yela's rings for an intense, dangerous, close quarters showdown. That's all for this week. No progress tracker updates this week as work continues on long-term planning. So yeah, usually January and the first half of February are their planning sessions. That's kind of been stretching out a little bit in the last couple years. So again, look for those numbers to switch up in March. This one's cool. Engineering. That's a big deal. I would think so. I didn't jump in and do much master mode testing because I haven't really dog fought, engaged in dog fighting. That's probably the way to say it. It's pretty sad considering that my dad actually used to do red flag, but yeah, dogfighting I never really got into in this particular game, and I'm interested in other stuff. Engineering, on the other hand, yeah, I will be testing that one. I didn't test master modes as much just because I kind of left that to the dogfighters to kind of hash out. The balance needs to be here and here because they're much more technical. When I'm flying around in a Banu Merchantman, not as big a deal. But anyway, engineering, I think, is kind of the BFD that's in this week's update. One thing I wanted to bring up is that they mentioned, so there was an interesting little tidbit in the this week for this week where they're kind of doing their usual thing up here. They were going down, blah, 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 blah. Monday, Tuesday, roadmap update. Thursday, keep your eyes peeled. The frigate is coming. Now, obviously, when they're talking about the frigate, they're talking about the Nautilus. I'm kidding. They're talking about the Idris. Of course, they're talking about the Idris. Now, this is interesting because with the Idris, they actually mentioned that they would not be dropping it prior to Squadron 42. And if they're going to be dropping the Idris now, obviously they're not dropping Squadron 42. So my guess is that it's going to be a situation similar to the F8, where they just sort of said, we've got the asset. People have this asset. Let's just give it to them. So they might be, if I was going safe, I'd say they're going to give the full version of the Idris to NPCs in the verse. And so we'll be able to steal those, but we won't actually get our Idrises. I don't know, one Knight does, Knight 55 does in our particular org. So I'll get to see it there. My dog just threw a stuffed monkey at me. That's kind of the safe take, is that they're going to release the Idris to us, to the NPCs, and then we'll get to steal them, and that way we'll get to use them, or some people will get to use them, and it'll be the full version of the Idris. The sort of unsafe way to do it is maybe the people who actually laid down, what is it, $1,200 or however much the Idris costs, actually are going to get the Idris in the verse, which would kind of change up my plans for 323, because if that were the case, we'd probably be pulling Knight's Idris and doing a lot of gameplay on that thing, because that would be very cool. The last time we saw an Idris in action, I think, was SitCon 7 years ago. 6 or 7 years ago. It like came in, it landed, the guy drove his Jeep on there. God, I don't even remember it, but it was a SitCon a few years back. Yeah, that would be neat. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the release view. So we have got, let's see. So what you want to look for is little orange dots. They haven't really changed anything for 322, which is what we got right now. They are still committed on the Gravlev racing, so that's something. Got any new ships? Nope, these are all the same ships. So 322, largely the same. 323, on the other hand, let's see. So we've got the new character customizer, which is going to be very cool. Distribution centers, they're going to be a big deal. Little bit of controversy in the community at the moment. Gameplay, we got a new one here. So dynamic event blockade runner. I can state now that this is being tested in Evocati. Seems to be pretty cool, not necessarily groundbreaking. Sis and Kate did a vid on it. I think it's gone wide to the PTU now, so People can do videos on it, so you can go and play it yourself the next time they do a play session. It's okay. It's a little disappointing that they're not being a little more innovative with some of these events, but then again, we're still under the same limitations until server meshing gets here. So it's the same old bunkers, it's the same old assets that they're kind of hemmed in by. And once the gloves come off, it should be kind of cool. Here's a new flight map, Miner's Lament. That's the new one. Engineering experimental modes. Let's see what they used as a picture. Ooh, yep, they used the, forget what they called that one. The manager or something was that one. Grav Royale. Let's see what that one is. That the, what is that? Is that the Nox? Someone that really knows grab bikes. What is that right there? Curious. Kind of looks like the Nox. I don't think it's a dragonfly. Anyway, custom lobbies. Very nice, especially for training people. Now, this is ironic because it's the personal and instance hangars, and they just told us that they're not going to be rolling out the vehicles with this one. And here's all the vehicles rolling out of your personalized hangar. So, yeah, that picture is wrong. Moby-Glass rework, going to be huge, going to be game-changing. We've had this Moby-Glass since 2016. I think. So yeah, they'll be using building blocks, should be way smoother. Loot screen, that'll be great. We've been dealing with this sort of janky loot system for a couple years now. I think that was right before COVID hit. FPF map system, again, that's going to be huge. New missions cargo hauling. Gonna be interesting how they balance all this out. I would assume that they are going to be bringing a nerf to salvaging. Right now, salvaging, you go out for an hour and you can make 3 to 6 million without really trying in a reclaimer. That is definitely going to be coming down a bit. I don't think it'll come down a lot because the reclaimer is an in-game ship. It's supposed to make a lot of money. It's supposed to cost a lot of money to run it with upkeep, but I think it'll come down from like 3 to 6 million to like 500K to a million, just based on some of the other things. I could see them overdoing it with cargo hauling just to test that loop. So again, don't fall in love with the new numbers. Don't fall in love with all the money. Visor and lens HUD rework, another big deal. We're going to have a lot of quality of life things happen in 323. Player interaction experience, that's basically just the little F buttons everywhere. So you can F off everywhere. EVA Tier 2 will be huge. Reputation hostility. They haven't really talked about this in a great deal of detail yet, but what I hope this is, kind of the way that they've explained it, is that, for example, I run a lot of bunkers where I'm going and popping nine tails. The nine tails run Grim Hex, which right now is my preferred home base. Like, I will move everything there, and that's where I log on and off, and that's where I have the medical thing. Once I piss off the nine tails by killing a couple hundred of them, I might not be able to land there without getting shot at. They might have nine tails patrols that'll actually shoot at people that are hostile to them. And same thing the other way. If you've been doing a bunch of illegal missions and you try to land at any of the lawful sections, so basically everywhere that isn't Grim Hex, you're going to have some issues. Maybe. Star map rework again. The FPS map and the star map are the same map, but the star map has been a janky piece of tech for a long time. Item bank and unique item recovery. So right now, funny story. I was moving some stuff up from New Bad, which was basically just a couple paints for ships. I was moving it up to Tressler and a Carrick, and as I hit Quantum to jump from Atmosphere up to Tressler, Carrick just exploded. No reason, so I lost all of those paints. Unfortunately, they're paints, so I'm not gonna buy those again. Uh, but I basically don't get those paints until the next time they reset everything. That'll change with this, which is nice. The other thing that you can do is that another thing I lost was a bunch of rare guns that I've kind of been looting over the last 2 or 3 patches, like F-55s and Demacos and railguns and Animus missile launchers. I had a few on there because I was kind of, one of the reasons I was going up to Tressler was to organize an org event, and those weapons were part of it. Lost them all. So, yeah, item bank, I'm all for that. Or at least sell the stuff that's actually out there in the looting. Freight elevator skin, we know how those are going to work. Master modes, gonna be interesting. So one of the downsides of master modes is I have not messed around with master modes, so it's going to be a whole new thing when 323 drops, and I need to know how to do them. I might see if they're still an arena commander. I don't know. Dynamic crosshair, if you're wearing a combat style helmet, you'll get basically a crosshair, as opposed to right now you're kind of shooting from the hip unless you have a laser sight on your gun, or you go to iron sights view or scope. That's the only way you can do this. If you're wearing a combat helmet now, you'll get kind of a crosshair out in the middle of your view. So you'll know where the bullets will be going. Kind of cool. Replication layer update, of course, that's the biggest thing to happen to this game in ages. And the progress tracker, still waiting, gang. And like I said, this will be I won't hammer this one home. This one will just be shorter than normal. If you want to hear about anything in specific here, I've got a couple things that are going to be coming up in the probably next week or so. A couple topics I'm going to talk about, but if there's something that you want to hear about, you just want to hear my opinions on, which again, everything on this show is just opinions. Everything on this channel is opinions. I'm more than happy to spout off what I think is going on or what I've heard. Let me know down in the comments and I'll chat about them. All right, game. That's all I got. Catch you next time.